Tuesday night, 9:47 p.m. I had just finished loading the dishwasher when my phone buzzed on the counter. A message from my buddy, Ryan. "You need to see this," it read, followed by a video file. No context, no explanation, just that cryptic sentence and a video. Ryan's not the type to joke around, so I wiped my hands and clicked play. It started innocently enough. A shot of people working out in what looked like a gym. The camera wasn't steady, and it was clear whoever filmed it was doing so discreetly. A few seconds in, the camera panned, and my stomach dropped. There was Lauren, my wife of 6 years, leaning against a wall with a wide grin. She wasn't just talking to her fitness trainer, Jake. She was flirting, full on, head tilted, hair twirling, giggling like a teenager flirting. And Jake? He wasn't exactly holding back. His hand brushed her arm, and she didn't flinch. She leaned in closer. At first, I didn't believe what I was seeing. Maybe it was just playful banter? Maybe Ryan was overreacting? But then Jake said something. I couldn't hear it, but Lauren's response was all I needed to see. She laughed and playfully smacked his chest, letting her hand linger there just a little too long. My heart pounded in my chest. I replayed the video twice, hoping, praying I was misinterpreting. But there was no misreading her body language. It wasn't just the kind of chemistry people accidentally stumble into. This was deliberate. Intentional. By the time Lauren got back from the gym, I had already decided what I needed to do. Sitting her down and asking questions wasn't going to work. She'd either lie, twist the story, or gaslight me into thinking I was crazy. No, if I wanted the truth, I'd have to catch her in it. When she walked through the door, I played it cool, like everything was normal. Hey, how was the workout? I asked, not looking up from my laptop. Exhausting, she said, tossing her bag on the floor. Jake really pushed us today. There it was again, his name like a punch to the gut. She didn't even flinch saying it, no hesitation, no guilt. She kicked off her sneakers, grabbed a water bottle, and plopped down on the couch. You want dinner now or later? I asked, trying to sound casual. Later's fine, she said, scrolling through her phone. I need a shower first. I watched her head upstairs, her phone still in her hand. That phone. It had been glued to her side for weeks now, and suddenly I understood why. Whatever secrets she was hiding were probably in there. I waited until I heard the shower turn on. My heart raced as I crept upstairs, pausing outside the bathroom door to make sure the water was running. She was singing some pop song, completely unaware of what I was about to do. Her gym bag was sitting at the foot of the bed. I grabbed it and rifled through it quickly but carefully. Sweaty clothes, a protein bar wrapper, nothing unusual. But then, buried at the bottom, I found something I wasn't expecting. A receipt. It was from some smoothie place near the gym, dated 2 days ago, with 2 drinks listed. 2. I felt a cold wave rush over me. Lauren hated smoothies. She always complained they were too sweet. But there it was in black and white. She'd ordered one for herself and one for someone else. I stuffed the receipt back in the bag, heart pounding. This wasn't enough to confront her with, but it was another piece of the puzzle. Then I heard the shower stop. I quickly zipped up the bag and bolted back downstairs, throwing myself onto the couch just as she came down in her robe, toweling her hair dry. She looked at me and smiled. An easy, innocent smile that made my skin crawl now. I'm starving, she said, heading toward the kitchen. Dinner's almost ready, I said, masking the turmoil in my voice. As I cooked, I kept glancing at her, wondering how she could act so normal, so calm, while hiding so much. But if she thought she was getting away with it, she was wrong. Because now I had a plan. Tomorrow I'd go to that gym myself. It was time to meet Jake. The next morning, I woke up early and told Lauren I had an off-site meeting for work. She didn't ask for details, just nodded while tying her sneakers, distracted as always. Don't wait up tonight, she said casually. Jake's got an extended session planned, so I might be late. My jaw clenched, but I forced a smile. Sure, have fun. As soon as she left, I grabbed my keys and drove straight to her gym. I parked across the street, watching the entrance like a detective on a stakeout. A few minutes later, she arrived, her usual confident stride giving no indication of guilt. She waved at the guy behind the front desk, then disappeared inside. I waited 10 minutes before walking in myself. The place was sleek and modern, full of people lifting weights and running on treadmills. I approached the desk, keeping my voice casual. "Hey, I'm thinking about joining," I said. "Wanted to check the place out." The receptionist, a young guy with a clipboard, smiled politely. "Of course. Want me to show you around?" "Actually," I said, glancing toward the floor, "my wife's been raving about her trainer, Jake. I think his name is." The guy chuckled. "Yeah, Jake's popular. He's in the back with a client right now. But I can introduce you if you're interested." "Sure," I said, my pulse quickening. He led me through the gym, past rows of machines and sweaty bodies, until we reached a more secluded area in the back. There he was, Jake. Tall, muscular, and annoyingly good-looking, like he stepped straight out of a fitness commercial. And there was Lauren. She was doing squats while Jake stood behind her, his hands way too close to her waist for my liking. They were talking, laughing, completely at ease with each other. "Jake!" the receptionist called out. Jake turned, his smile broad and friendly. "What's up? This guy's thinking about joining. Says his wife works with you." Jake's eyes flicked to me, and for a brief moment, something shifted in his expression. Recognition? Guilt? Couldn't tell. "Nice to meet you," he said, extending a hand. I shook it, my grip firm. "Mike, Lauren's husband." He hesitated just a split second, but it was enough. "Oh yeah, Lauren talks about you all the time. Great to meet you, man." "Likewise," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "She's mentioned you're a good trainer. Looks like she's getting a lot out of it." Lauren turned then, her face registering shock for just a heartbeat before she plastered on a smile. "Mike, what are you doing here?" "Thought I'd check the place out," I said smoothly. "You've been talking about it so much, I figured it must be worth seeing." Her eyes darted between me and Jake, her composure slipping. "That's nice. I didn't think you were into gyms." "Trying new things," I said, my smile sharp. Jake stepped back, giving us some space. "Well, I'll let you guys catch up. Lauren, just finish up with those, and we'll move on to the next set." As he walked away, I could feel Lauren's tension radiating off her. "Why didn't you tell me you were coming?" she asked, her voice tight. "I wanted it to be a surprise," I said, leaning closer. "Looks like I got what I came for." She blinked, her smile faltering. I wasn't sure if she caught the double meaning, but it didn't matter. This wasn't the time for a full confrontation. Not yet. I didn't realize I was shaking until I nearly dropped the phone. Ryan's next message popped up. "Dude, I'm sorry, but you needed to know." I stared at the screen, every fiber of my being screaming to do something. Call her, text her, drive to that damn gym and confront her on the spot. But I didn't. Instead, I just stood there in the kitchen, replaying the scene in my mind and feeling the ground beneath me start to crack. It wasn't just anger or hurt. It was disbelief, like my brain couldn't fully process that this was my life now. That my wife, the person I trusted most in the world, was capable of this. For a brief second, I even questioned Ryan. Why did he have this video? Why was he there? But the real question, the one I couldn't escape, was this. How long has this been going on? I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that video on repeat. Her smile, the way her body tilted toward him, the way he looked at her like she was the only woman in the room. I told myself 100 different things to stay calm. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. Maybe Ryan caught her in a bad moment. Maybe I was just being dramatic. By morning, though, the doubt had planted itself deep. Lauren was already up by the time I dragged myself out of bed. Her gym bag slung over her shoulder. That same damn energy in her step that had been bothering me for weeks. "Morning," she chirped, completely oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. "Morning," I muttered, watching her carefully as she sipped her coffee. I thought about saying something right then, just throwing the video in her face and demanding an explanation. But there was this part of me, a stupid, hopeful part, that wanted to believe there was some logical, innocent explanation. "You're heading to the gym?" I asked casually, masking the tension in my voice. She nodded, adjusting the strap of her bag. "Yeah, Jake's got this new session planned. It's supposed to be killer." Jake. There was that name again, sliding out of her mouth like it was no big deal. But now I knew better. My stomach twisted as I forced a smile. Cool, I said, trying to sound indifferent. You've been spending a lot of time there lately. Lauren raised an eyebrow. Yeah? Is that a problem? I shook my head quickly. No, just noticed, that's all. She shrugged, grabbed her keys, and gave me a quick peck on the cheek. I'll see you later. And just like that, she was gone. I stood there for a moment, the air feeling heavier than it should. There was nothing about that exchange that should have been alarming, except now I couldn't unsee the video. Her cheerful tone felt fake, her kiss mechanical. She didn't even notice I was barely responding, like she was too distracted to care. I couldn't just sit there anymore. I had to do something, anything, to get clarity. So I texted Ryan. Hey, when did you take that video? Ryan, yesterday. Saw her at the gym and thought something looked off. Sorry, man. You ever seen her like that before? Ryan, not like that, but she's been there a lot. Always with him. Always with him. The words hit like a hammer. I wanted to throw my phone across the room, scream, do something to shake off the helplessness creeping over me. But instead, I took a deep breath and made a decision. If she thought she could hide this from me, she was wrong. It was time to find out what was really going on. I left the gym shortly after meeting Jake, but my head was spinning. Lauren's reaction had been priceless. Caught completely off guard. I knew something was off, but I needed more. I needed her to slip, to give herself away. The moment I got home, I set things into motion. If she thought she could lie to my face, she'd underestimated me. That evening, Lauren came home like nothing had happened. She tossed her bag on the counter, poured herself a glass of wine, and joined me in the living room. Guess who I bumped into at the gym today? I said, keeping my tone light. She froze mid-sip. Who? Jake. Her hand tightened around the glass, but she quickly recovered, giving me a breezy smile. Oh yeah? What did you think of him? Seemed like a nice guy, I said, watching her carefully. Friendly. Lauren nodded, taking another sip to buy herself time. He's great. Really helped me stay motivated. Motivated? I repeated, letting the word hang in the air. Her eyes flicked to mine, and for the first time I saw it. A crack in her facade. What's with the interrogation? She asked, laughing nervously. No interrogation, I said with a shrug. Just curious. You spend a lot of time with him, after all. Lauren set her glass down a little too hard. What's that supposed to mean? I leaned back, crossing my arms. It means you're spending more time with your trainer than you do with me. Just wondering if I should be jealous. Her face hardened. Oh, for God's sake, Mike. Don't be ridiculous. Jake's my trainer. That's it. I didn't push further. Not yet. Instead, I let the silence stretch, watching her squirm. She grabbed her phone, scrolling aimlessly to avoid meeting my eyes. And that's when it happened. Her phone buzzed with a notification. A message preview flashing across the screen for half a second before she swiped it away. But I saw it. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Jake. My chest tightened as I pretended not to notice. She quickly locked her phone and stood up, her movements stiff. I'm going to take a shower, she said, avoiding eye contact. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. The moment I heard the bathroom door click shut, I grabbed her phone from the couch. She changed her passcode. Of course she had, but I wasn't surprised. I didn't need to open it. I had seen enough. Lauren had just given herself away. This wasn't paranoia anymore. This wasn't misinterpreted flirting or a misunderstanding. Jake's text wasn't the kind of message a trainer sends a client. It was the kind of message a man sends to someone he's far too close to. And now, I had proof that I sat there, her locked phone in my hand, my mind racing. That message from Jake wasn't just a red flag. It was a blaring siren. I could have confronted her right then, but it would have been too easy for her to lie, twist the narrative, or claim I was overreacting. No, if I wanted the truth, I'd have to be smarter. I put the phone back exactly where she'd left it, careful to make it seem untouched. Then I grabbed my laptop and started searching for solutions. If she was texting him, there had to be more. Messages, pictures, calls, I wanted all of it. After an hour of digging, I found it, a tracking app. Not just one of those location trackers, but something that could mirror her texts and give me access to her call logs. It wasn't cheap and it felt a little extreme, but at this point I didn't care. If Lauren was going behind my back, I deserved to know the full story. The app required me to install it directly on her phone, so I waited. I kept the TV on, pretending to watch while listening for any sign that her shower was about to end. When the water finally stopped, my heart started pounding. She walked out a few minutes later, hair damp, wrapped in a towel. "What are you watching?" she asked, acting like everything was perfectly normal. "Just flipping through channels," I said, barely looking at her. She nodded and sat down on the couch, grabbing her phone. For a moment, I thought she might notice something was off, sensed the tension in the air. But she didn't. Instead, she unlocked her phone, scrolled through it briefly, then set it down again and headed upstairs to get dressed. That was my window. I moved quickly, picking up her phone and unlocking it the moment I heard the bedroom door close. The passcode wasn't hard to guess. She'd used the same combination for years, something she clearly hadn't thought to change. Within 2 minutes, the app was installed. It synced seamlessly, backing up her messages and call history to my laptop in real time. I wiped the installation logs, closed the app, and put her phone back exactly as it was. By the time she came back downstairs, I was sitting casually on the couch, scrolling through my own phone as if nothing had happened. "Feel like watching something together?" she asked, her voice light and casual. "Sure," I said, smiling at her for what felt like the first time in weeks. But inside, I was anything but calm. The app was already sending updates to my laptop, feeding me the secrets she thought she was keeping hidden. By the end of the night, I'd know everything, and I had a feeling Lauren wasn't ready for what was coming next. Later that night, when Lauren was fast asleep, I slipped out of bed and grabbed my laptop. Sitting at the kitchen table, I opened the app, my hands trembling. It felt surreal, like I was crossing some invisible line. But if she wasn't going to respect our marriage, why should I respect her privacy? The first thing I saw was a flood of messages between her and Jake. The thread was long, weeks, maybe months of conversation. My stomach tightened as I scrolled through, reading every word. First, it was harmless. She'd asked him about workout tips, nutrition advice, and other typical trainer-client stuff. But then, somewhere along the way, the tone shifted. "Jake, you looked amazing today. I can tell you're putting in the work." "Lauren, thanks. It's easy when you have someone like you pushing me." I clenched my jaw, scrolling further. The flirting escalated, each message more blatant than the last. "Jake, can't lie. I look forward to our sessions. You're the highlight of my day." "Lauren, careful, you're gonna make me blush." The timestamp on that one was from 3 weeks ago. My chest burned as I kept reading. Their messages weren't just playful, they were intimate. There were inside jokes I didn't understand, nicknames I'd never heard her use, and then the confirmation I dreaded most. "Jake, Thursday was incredible. I keep replaying it in my head." "Lauren, same. I wish we had more time. But you know how it is." My breath caught. Thursday. That was the night she'd come home late from the gym, flushed and distracted. She had lied to my face, and now I had proof. The messages didn't stop there. They talked about meeting again, about keeping things discreet. Jake even joked about hitting PRs in more ways than one, followed by a winking emoji. I wanted to punch something, but then I noticed something else, a name. "Lauren, I don't think Mike suspects anything, but Ryan's a problem. He's been at the gym too much lately." Ryan, my friend, the same guy who'd sent me the video. Lauren knew he was onto her. That explained the tension when I mentioned seeing Jake. She wasn't just hiding this from me. She was trying to cover her tracks. I sat back in my chair, the weight of it all crashing down on me. My wife wasn't just having an affair. She was actively lying, manipulating, and strategizing to keep me in the dark. But now I had everything I needed. I stared at the screen, the anger simmering into something sharper, colder. Tomorrow I'd confront her. No warnings, no sugarcoating. She wanted to play games? Fine. But I was done being the fool. The next morning, I was up before Lauren, sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop in front of me. The messages were still open on the screen, the damning evidence staring back at me like a loaded weapon. She came downstairs yawning, dressed in her usual gym gear. "Morning," she said casually, heading straight for the coffee machine. Morning, I replied, my voice steady but cold. She froze, sensing the edge in my tone. What's up? She asked, glancing at me. We need to talk, I said, gesturing to the chair across from me. Lauren frowned but sat down, her coffee mug in hand. Okay. What about? I turned the laptop toward her, showing her the message thread with Jake. For a moment, her face was unreadable. Then her expression shifted, shock, followed by denial, and finally, anger. What the hell, Mike? She snapped. You went through my phone? Don't even try to flip this on me, I said, my voice rising. You've been lying to me for months, sneaking around, and you expect me to feel bad for catching you? Her cheeks flushed, but not with guilt. This is such an invasion of privacy. You had no right. I had every right. I shot back, slamming my hand on the table. I'm your husband, Lauren, and you're cheating on me with your trainer. She opened her mouth to argue but stopped, her eyes darting to the screen. The evidence was too clear, too damning. For a brief moment, I thought she might apologize, that she might show some shred of remorse. But instead, she scoffed. You're being dramatic. It's not what it looks like. I laughed bitterly. Not what it looks like. Thursday was incredible? I wish we had more time. Explain that, Lauren. She rolled her eyes, crossing her arms. We were talking about a workout. You're reading too much into this. Oh, so now Ryan's wrong too? I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Because he's the one who filmed you flirting with Jake. He's the one who warned me. Everyone's just misunderstanding your little sessions. Huh. Her composure cracked for a split second, but she quickly recovered. Ryan's always been jealous of us. He probably made it look worse than it was just to stir up trouble. I stared at her in disbelief. Do you hear yourself? You're lying to my face right now, aren't you? Lauren leaned back, her expression hardening. You're overreacting. I'm not doing this with you. If you're going to act like a paranoid psycho, maybe you should take a good look at yourself first. Her words hit like a slap, but I didn't let it show. I leaned forward, my voice calm but razor sharp. I've taken a good look, Lauren, and I see someone who doesn't respect me. Our marriage, or herself. You can keep lying if it makes you feel better, but we're done playing this game. She stood abruptly, pushing the chair back.
Jure impossible.
I don't have to sit here and listen to this. I watched as she grabbed her bag and stormed toward the door. Where are you going? I called after her. Somewhere I don't have to deal with your accusations, she snapped, slamming the door behind her. I sat there for a long time, the silence in the house deafening. This wasn't the end. Not yet. But the cracks in our marriage had just become fractures, and I wasn't sure they could ever be repaired. Lauren's dramatic exit left the house eerily quiet, but I didn't have time to sit in that silence. There was still one person I needed to talk to. Ryan. I called him immediately, and he picked up on the second ring. Mike, everything okay? He asked, concern clear in his voice. Not really, I said, pinching the bridge of my nose. I confronted Lauren this morning. She tried to lie her way out of it, said I was being dramatic, but, man, it's bad. I need to know everything you've seen. Ryan sighed heavily. You sure you want to hear this? I need the truth, Ryan. All of it. He hesitated, then finally said, all right, meet me at Murphy's. I don't want to do this over the phone. Murphy's was a bar we used to hang out at before life got busy. I hadn't been there in years, but it felt fitting. A place tied to simpler times before all this. I arrived early, nursing a beer and replaying every conversation, every suspicious moment with Lauren in my head. Ryan walked in about 20 minutes later, looking as grim as I felt. He slid into the booth across from me, ordered a drink, and got straight to the point. First off, he began. I didn't want to get involved, but when I saw what I saw, I couldn't ignore it. That day I sent you the video. It wasn't the first time I noticed something weird. What do you mean? I asked, leaning forward. I've seen them together a lot, Ryan said, his voice low. At the gym, sure, but also outside of it. A couple of weeks ago, I ran into them at a coffee shop near downtown. They didn't see me, but it wasn't just trainer-client stuff. They were sitting close, laughing, touching. It looked intimate. My stomach churned. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Ryan looked me dead in the eye. Because I wanted to be sure. I didn't want to blow up your marriage over something I wasn't 100% on. But then I started seeing it more and more. The gym wasn't the only place, Mike. I've seen them together at least twice outside of their sessions. His words felt like a sledgehammer to my chest. I clenched my fists, trying to keep my emotions in check. Did you see them? You know? Ryan shook his head. No, but I didn't need to. The way they acted around each other, it's not innocent, Mike. I hate to say it, but it's obvious something's going on. I sat back, the weight of his words crushing me. I had hoped, deep down, that there might be some way to explain all this away. But Ryan's account matched everything else. The messages, the lies, the late nights. Lauren had crossed a line. She's still trying to gaslight me, I muttered. Says I'm paranoid, that I'm overreacting. Ryan snorted bitterly. Classic move. She's trying to make you doubt yourself because she knows she's guilty. I nodded slowly, a cold clarity settling over me. Thanks, man, for telling me. I know it couldn't have been easy. Ryan sighed. I didn't want to be the guy who blows up his friend's marriage. But I couldn't let you stay in the dark. You deserve better, Mike. I looked down at my beer, his words sinking in. Better. I deserved better. And now I knew exactly what I needed to do next. When I got home that evening, the house was dark and quiet. Lauren still wasn't back, and for the first time I didn't care where she was. The day's revelations had hardened something in me. Whatever fragile hope I'd been holding onto was gone. I sat on the couch, staring at nothing in particular, replaying Ryan's words in my head. I kept coming back to one thought. This can't go on. Around 9 p.m., I heard her car pull into the driveway. The door opened, and Lauren walked in. Her face a mix of irritation and forced calm. She set her gym bag down without looking at me. Still mad? Huh? She asked, her tone dismissive. Where were you? I asked, my voice cold and flat. She rolled her eyes. At the gym. Where else? Funny, I said, standing up. Ryan told me he's seen you at coffee shops with Jake. And not just once. Her head snapped toward me, her eyes narrowing. Ryan? What the hell is he doing spying on me? Don't deflect, I snapped. Answer the question. Were you with Jake tonight? Her lips tightened, her face hardening into a mask of defiance. I'm not doing this, Mike. I don't have to explain every second of my day to you. That's not an answer, I said, stepping closer. My voice rose, the anger I'd been holding back finally boiling over. Were you with him? She threw her hands up, her voice matching mine. Fine. You want to know? Yes, I was with Jake. We had a coffee after my session. Happy now. Her admission hit like a punch to the gut, even though I'd already known the truth. The casual way she said it, like it was no big deal, made my blood boil. What else, Lauren? I demanded. How far has this gone? Are you sleeping with him? She flinched at the accusation. But then her expression shifted to something colder, more defensive. That's none of your business. My heart sank. That wasn't a denial. None of my business, I said, my voice shaking with fury. You're my wife. How can you stand there and say that to me? She crossed her arms, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Maybe because you've been treating me like a suspect instead of a partner? Maybe because you've been stalking me, spying on me, invading my privacy? I let out a bitter laugh, incredulous at her audacity. You don't get to play the victim here, Lauren. You're the one sneaking around. You're the one lying. And now, you're blaming me for catching you. Her face twisted with anger, and for a moment, I thought she might say something. An apology, an admission, anything. But instead, she grabbed her bag and stormed toward the stairs. I'm done with this conversation, she said coldly. I stood there, watching her disappear up the steps, my fists clenched at my sides. This wasn't just a breaking point. It was the moment I realized there was no salvaging what we had. Lauren wasn't sorry. She wasn't even trying to deny it anymore. And if she thought she could walk away from this unscathed, she was about to find out just how wrong she was. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling while Lauren pretended to sleep next to me, her breathing too steady to be real. Her silence wasn't just avoidance, it was a challenge. She wasn't going to admit anything. She thought she could ride this out, that I'd eventually back down. But she didn't know what I had planned. The next morning, I got up before her. My chest felt tight, but my mind was laser-focused. Lauren wanted to act like this was all in my head, like her betrayal was a private indulgence that didn't affect me. Well, I was about to remind her just how much was at stake. After she left for her gym session, I made a few calls. The first was to a divorce attorney. I didn't tell them everything, just enough to get a consultation set up. The second call was to Ryan. "Mike," he answered, surprised. "What's up?" "I'm ready to blow this wide open," I said. Ryan didn't need an explanation. "What do you need from me?" "I need that video you sent me, the original. And if you've got anything else, photos, times you saw them together, anything, it's time to put it all on the table." Ryan hesitated, then said, "I've got a couple of other things. Screenshots from their gym's Instagram. They've been tagged together in a few posts. Nothing incriminating, but enough to show how close they are." "Send me everything," I said, my voice firm. By the time Lauren got back that evening, I had compiled a folder of evidence, messages, timestamps, videos, screenshots. I wasn't just confronting her this time. I was building a case. She walked in, her usual air of nonchalance masking the tension between us. "Hey," she said, setting her bag down. "Sit down," I said, my voice calm but commanding. She frowned. "What's this about now?" "Sit down," I repeated, gesturing to the dining table. She rolled her eyes but complied, crossing her arms defensively. I opened my laptop and turned it toward her. The first thing she saw was the video Ryan had taken, the one of her laughing and leaning into Jake at the gym. Her face went pale. "I told you," she began, but I cut her off. "Don't even try," I said, clicking to the next file. A screenshot of Jake's message about Thursday. "This isn't just a misunderstanding, Lauren. This is you betraying me, lying to me, rewriting our entire marriage behind my back." Her jaw clenched, her defenses crumbling under the weight of the evidence. "What do you want me to say, Mike? Huh? That I screwed up? Fine, I screwed up. Are you happy now?" I leaned forward, my voice cold. "Happy? Do I look happy to you? You didn't just screw up, Lauren. You made a choice, 100 choices. To lie, to cheat, to throw everything we built away. So no, I'm not happy. But I am done." Her eyes widened. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I've already talked to a lawyer," I said, standing up. "It means you can go pack a bag and stay somewhere else tonight, because I'm done sharing a house with someone who can't even look me in the eye and tell the truth." For the first time, she looked panicked. "Mike, wait. Let's talk about this. You had your chance to talk," I said, pointing at the laptop. This is your legacy. This is what you thought was worth destroying us for. I hope it was worth it." She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. Finally, she stood, her shoulders slumped, and headed upstairs without another word. I sat back down, the adrenaline finally wearing off. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was free, and that was something she couldn't take from me. Lauren stayed upstairs for nearly an hour after our confrontation. I could hear her pacing, drawers opening and closing as she packed a bag. I didn't go up to check on her. I didn't need to. Every part of me was done waiting for her to explain, to justify, to beg for forgiveness. She'd made her choices. Now I was making mine. When she finally came downstairs, she was carrying a duffel bag. Her face was a mix of anger and something close to desperation. For a moment, I thought she might say something to fight for what we had, or at least what we used to have. But all she said was, "Where am I supposed to go?" "That's not my problem," I replied coldly. "Figure it out. Call Jake if you need to." Her eyes narrowed, a flicker of indignation crossing her face. "You think you're so righteous? Like you're perfect? Maybe if you'd been more present, more." "Don't," I interrupted, standing up. My voice was steady, but every word carried the weight of everything I'd been holding back. "Don't you dare try to blame this on me. I wasn't the one sneaking around, sending flirty texts, lying about where I was. You did this, Lauren. Own it." She bit her lip, the fire in her eyes dimming as the reality of her situation hit her. Without another word, she turned and walked out the door, slamming it behind her. I stood there in the silence that followed, a strange mix of relief and sadness washing over me. This was the end of something I thought would last forever, but it was also the beginning of something new, something I could rebuild without lies and betrayal. But I wasn't done yet. I picked up my phone and dialed Ryan. "Mike," he answered quickly. "Everything okay?" "It's done," I said. "She's gone. But I need one more favor." "Name it," Ryan said without hesitation. "I need you to come with me to the gym tomorrow."
I want to talk to Jake.
There was a pause, then Ryan let out a low whistle. "You sure about that?" "Absolutely," I said, my voice firm. "He's as much a part of this as she is, and he doesn't get to walk away like nothing happened." Ryan agreed, and we set a time to meet. As I hung up, I realized something surprising. For the first time in weeks, I felt clear. The anger was still there, but it was controlled now like a weapon I knew how to wield. Tomorrow I was going to confront Jake. And this time, there would be no misunderstandings, no excuses, no room for him to hide behind his charming smile. Lauren had made her bed. Now it was his turn. The next day, I walked into the gym with Ryan at my side. The place was bustling, the air filled with the clanking of weights and the steady hum of treadmills. I scanned the room, looking for him, my heart pounding harder with each step. And there he was, Jake. He was leaning casually against a squat rack, chatting with a group of clients. He hadn't noticed me yet, but I could see the same cocky smile that I'd seen in the video, the one he'd flashed at Lauren. "Let's do this," I muttered to Ryan, who nodded grimly. We walked straight up to Jake, and when I was a few feet away, he finally turned, his smile faltering the moment he recognized me. "Mike," he said, feigning surprise. "Hey man, what's up? Can we talk?" I asked, my voice even but firm. Jake glanced at the people around him, his discomfort obvious. Now's not really a good time. I'm with clients." "It'll only take a minute," I said, stepping closer. My tone left no room for argument. Reluctantly, he nodded and gestured toward a quieter corner of the gym. Ryan followed, standing a few feet back, his presence a silent warning that I wasn't here alone. "What's this about?" Jake asked, folding his arms defensively. "You know damn well what this is about," I said, keeping my voice low but charged. "You've been sleeping with my wife." His eyes widened slightly, but he quickly masked it with a dismissive laugh. "Whoa, hold on. That's a big accusation, man. I don't know what Lauren's been telling you." "But she didn't tell me," I interrupted, pulling out my phone. "She didn't have to. I've got messages, screenshots, videos. Do you want me to go through them? Or are you finally going to admit what you've been doing?" Jake's jaw tightened, the smugness draining from his face. For a moment, he looked like he might try to deny it again, but then he sighed and rubbed the back of his neck. "Look, man, I didn't mean for things to get this far," he said, his voice dripping with fake remorse. "It just happened. We didn't plan it." "Didn't plan it?" I repeated, my voice rising despite myself. "You didn't plan to flirt with her? Didn't plan to meet her outside the gym? Didn't plan Thursday?" Jake flinched, clearly caught off guard by how much I knew. "I'm sorry, all right? I never wanted to hurt anyone. You didn't just anything," I snapped, stepping closer. "You crossed a line. You knew she was married, and you went for it anyway. Don't act like some innocent bystander." Jake held up his hands, trying to placate me. "Look, if you're pissed, I get it. But Lauren made her own choices, too. It wasn't all me." "That's the first honest thing you've said all day," I said, my voice cold. "She made her choices, and now she's out of my house. But you're not walking away from this without consequences." "What's that supposed to mean?" he asked, his eyes narrowing. "It means I've already spoken to the gym's management," I said, my words deliberate. "They're reviewing your behavior with clients. Let's just say they're not thrilled about what I've shared." Jake's face paled. You went to my boss? What did you expect?" I said, leaning in. "That you could mess with someone's marriage, ruin people's lives, and keep your job like nothing happened? Actions have consequences, Jake. You should have thought about that before you made your move." Jake opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. He looked from me to Ryan, who crossed his arms and stared him down. "You're done," I said, my voice final. With Lauren. With this gym. With everything you thought you were getting away with. I turned and walked away without waiting for a response. Ryan falling into step beside me. As we left the gym, I felt a strange sense of closure. Jake had gotten what he deserved. Now it was time for me to focus on what came next. By the time I got home, the weight I'd been carrying for weeks felt lighter. Not gone, but manageable. Lauren's betrayal had gutted me, and Jake's smug indifference had only poured salt in the wound. But confronting them both had given me something I hadn't felt in a long time. Control. The house was quiet, almost eerily so, but it was my space now. No lies, no secrets, no tension. Just me and the future I was determined to rebuild. Lauren texted me that evening. Lauren, I hope you're happy ruining my life. I stared at the screen for a long moment, anger bubbling up again. She wasn't sorry. Not for what she did to me, not for how she betrayed our marriage. She was only sorry for the consequences. I didn't respond. Instead, I spent the evening packing up her things. Every photo of us, every piece of her clothing, every little reminder of the life we'd built together. It all went into boxes. I stacked them neatly by the door, ready for her to pick up whenever she decided to crawl back and face reality. The next day, I met with the divorce attorney. The meeting was straightforward, almost clinical. We talked about assets, timelines, and next steps. It wasn't the life I'd imagined, but it was a way forward. As I left the lawyer's office, I felt something unexpected, relief. Ryan called later that evening. "How are you holding up?" he asked. "I'm okay," I said honestly. "Better than I thought I'd be." "You did the right thing," he said. "It's gonna suck for a while, but you're better off without her." He was right. It was going to suck. But I also knew he was right about the second part. I deserved better. Over the next few weeks, I started to rebuild. I reconnected with friends, threw myself into work, and even started going to the gym, though not that one. Slowly but surely, I began to feel like myself again. Lauren tried reaching out a few more times, but I didn't engage. Whatever she had to say, it didn't matter anymore. She'd made her choices, and now I was making mine. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that trust is everything. The moment someone breaks it, they shatter something that can never be fully repaired. And no matter how much it hurts, walking away is sometimes the only way to heal. For anyone reading this who's been in my shoes, here's my advice. Trust your gut. Don't let anyone convince you that your instincts are wrong, especially when all the evidence is staring you in the face. You deserve someone who values you, respects you, and fights for you. As for me, I'm not looking back. I'm moving forward one step at a time. And for the first time in a long time, I feel free.